Right everyone, it is Finn here and welcome to my Nations League prediction video, where of course today I'm going to be predicting every single group for the upcoming Nations League. Now of course the competition is only about a week and a half away, and just because the domestic football season has come to an end does not mean that you should go without regular football content. I mean, in fact, for the next 2 to 3 months without domestic football, I'm going to be providing you with a lot of international football content. I mean, whether it be Nations League, African Cup of Nations qualification, World Cup content, you can count on me. I still have your back in terms of content. And of course, if you want to get my back, don't forget to subscribe down below if you are not already. I would really appreciate that. But of course, jumping straight into the Nations League. As I said, today we're going to be predicting from League A all the way to League D, or the other way around, I guess. Every single table, every single team, we will be talking about it. And of course, there are a lot of teams to talk about. And of course, we're going to be starting off with League D, obviously, with some of the smaller teams. Obviously, it's not quite like League A, where you've got the likes of your France, your Denmark, Spain, Portugal, England, Germany, all of those teams. But of course, starting off with League D, we have the likes of Moldova, Liechtenstein, Latvia, and Andorra in our first group. Now, the way I'm going to be doing this prediction video is obviously I'm going to spend a tiny bit less time on the lower leagues. Obviously, when it comes to League A, I'll go a bit more in depth because otherwise this video drags on for far too long. But of course, looking at League 1 with these 4 teams that we're going to be looking at, to be honest, initially, I mean, I thought it would be a relatively close group overall, but I do have to say that I do think Latvia is going to be the team that I think will end up winning the group. Although they came 5th out of the 6 teams in their World Cup qualification group, I mean, it was a relatively tricky group, and they did end up picking 2 wins, which, I mean, with the caliber of teams around them, that is not a bad result, and they should end up, I think they'll get promoted to League C, to be honest with you. Now, ending 2nd in the group, once again, also going to be very tricky, but I do think I'm going to go for the likes of good old Andorra. Obviously, once again, they came last place, unfortunately, or they came 5th out of 6th as well in their group. Once again, also a very tricky group, and the only team they ended up coming above with the likes of San Marino, the worst ranked nation in the entire world. Once again, not very convincing. None of these teams are going to be top of their group kind of quality, but at the end of the day, I do think Andorra will end up snatching that 2nd place. Now, obviously, between 3rd and 4th, it doesn't really matter too much, but in 3rd place, I think it is going to be Liechtenstein. Obviously, once again, they weren't in the trickiest of groups, and they still managed to come 6th place in their group. They will be disappointed with that, and obviously that does mean that almost due to process of elimination, that I do think the likes of Moldova will end dead last in their group. Obviously 6th place in their World Cup qualification group. Obviously, I mean, they were even under the likes of Faroe Islands. Very unimpressed with them, and I do think that is how the group will end up looking. Now, of course, going into Group 2 of League D, we have Estonia, Malta, and San Marino. Now, as I said, San Marino, the lowest ranked nation in the entire world. 0 competitive wins in the nation's history. I mean, if you just look at them in terms of their World Cup qualification numbers, 46 goals conceded in 10 games. Absolutely horrific. That's 4.6 goals per match. Absolutely horrific. They will end dead last. And between Estonia and Malta, although I've got a little bit of a soft spot in my heart for the Malta nation, I do think Estonia probably are the better team between these two. I mean, they ended up coming 4th out of 5 teams in their World Cup qualifications group. They did end up picking a win, which once again, not saying too much, but I think compared to Malta, probably the better nation. Now, of course, once again, ladies and gentlemen, if you have predictions, don't forget to put them down in the comment section down below. Now, of course, I don't have an in-depth knowledge about every single football nation, so if you do feel like I'm incorrect about anything, feel free to let me know in a friendly fashion, please. Now, of course, jumping into Group C, we get our first, I would call, big dog in the world of football, as we have Turkey next. Now, of course, as we know, Turkey were not bad, obviously, when it came to qualifying for the recent Euros. Obviously, they had a very, very impressive run. They obviously got that gigantic win versus the likes of Netherlands, but as we know, unfortunately had a very, very bad Euro 2020 campaign. But saying that they have the best players out of anyone else in this group, they have the ability to bounce back, and I think that is exactly what they'll do. And I do think Turkey will end up winning their group in Group 1 of the C League. Now, of course, in terms of 2nd place in their group, I do think it's probably going to be Luxembourg. Now, of course, Luxembourg had a very, very tricky group, ended up coming 3rd place in that very tricky group out of 6 teams. 3 wins in 8 games, as I said, very, very impressive for them, and they should end up comfortably snatching that 2nd place. Now, of course, between third and fourth, once again, it's much of a muchness. It doesn't really matter in my opinion, but I do think the team that will end up being in third place is going to be Faroe Islands with Lithuania in fourth place. I feel like the way that they look like in the qualification stages, once again, I was slightly more impressed with Faroe Islands over Lithuania. But yeah, either way, I do feel like one of these two teams will end up being last place. Now, of course, moving on to Group 2. Now, this, I have to say, is a very difficult group. Northern Ireland, I feel like they've got some exceptional talent in their team. Between young players, between old players, they've got a fantastic squad. As we know, Greece, a previous Euro winner, I mean, they've got a fantastic squad, but unfortunately, they've been on a tiny bit of a decline in recent years. We know Kosovo have got some world star players, with the likes of Cyprus. Once again, they do have potential to surprise. I would say that this is one of the trickiest groups we've had so far, and it's definitely not going to be an easy one to predict, to be honest with you. I mean, I think looking at it, I do have to say that I do think Northern Ireland will end up winning this one. I mean, they ended up getting a draw versus Italy not too long ago, and as I said, I think out of all these teams, definitely the best form, and I think Northern Ireland in years to come will definitely hold some surprises in the world of football. Now, looking at second place, I do think Greece should end up picking it up. Once again, as I said, they've been on a bit of a decline in recent years, but they should still be good enough to pick up second place. They've still got some fantastic players, and yeah, I guess we'll have to see how they go with the likes of Liverpool, Samikas, and a bunch of other world-class players. Now, of course, in third place, I do think Kosovo will end up picking it up. In fact, I think this is what the group's going to look like in general, to be honest with you. I think they've pretty much given you the way the group's going to outstand. I think Kosovo, obviously, we know the likes of Rashika from Norwich City, although got relegated this season once again. Fantastic player. It is a really decent squad, and I think especially versus the likes of Cyprus, they should end up getting that third place. But once again, football is football. Absolutely anything can happen. Now, of course, jumping into Group 3, we've got the likes of Slovakia, Belarus, we've got Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan. Once again, not a very easy group, but I would like to think that Slovakia should win this one easily. I mean, in my opinion, they were absolutely fantastic in the recent Euros. I mean, if you look at them, third place, obviously, out of 6 teams in their World Cup qualification group. But if you looked at them at the Euros, in my opinion, I thought that they had an outstanding performance. Unfortunately, it was just due to a few errors versus, I think it was the likes of Spain at the Euros. But other than that, I think they had an absolutely fantastic tournament. I think defensively, they've got great players. Midfield-wise and attacking-wise, they've got players that could surprise you, and they should comfortably win this group. Now, out of the last 3 teams, or the other 3 teams, all 3 of these teams came dead last within their World Cup qualification group. So, you know what? I don't have high expectations for these 3 teams, to be honest with you, but I do think Azerbaijan is going to end up picking up second place, in my opinion, with the likes of Kazakhstan in third place and
great success,
and Belarus in fourth place, just because looking at all of them, once again, when it came to World Cup qualifications, all of them ended up dead last. But I mean, out of all of them, I do believe that it was Belarus who conceded the most goals, and that's kind of why I put them in last, to be honest with you. I don't think defensively that they'll be able to keep up with the others. Now, of course, moving on to Group 4, we've got Bulgaria, North Macedonia, Georgia, and Gibraltar. Now, I'm going to say this straight away. North Macedonia need to win this group, and they should. I'm going to predict that they will in first place. I mean, if you look at them, they are the reason Italy won't be at the upcoming World Cup. They knocked out the likes of Italy. It wasn't too long ago where they got a result versus the likes of Germany. North Macedonia have been the biggest underdogs in the world of football over the last few years. I mean, this dog bites, and it has rabies with it. I would not mess with them, and they've got some fantastic players obviously in their squad. Once again, you just cannot underestimate them, and they should win their group. Now, of course, in second place, now although a lot of people would probably say Bulgaria, I'm going to upset a lot of people. I'm going to go for Georgia. I've got a very soft spot in my heart for them, and they've really been on the rise in the last few years, in my opinion. Obviously, we recently had that Georgian winger signed for the likes of Napoli. Obviously, there's that goalkeeper playing in the league at the moment. Once again, I mean, I've just mentioned the likes of 2 players, for example, but I do think Georgia have a rising squad, and I think what we've seen in the last few years, they will have potential to surprise. Now, of course, that does mean that I think Bulgaria will end up third place in their group, although they recently got a win versus Northern Ireland, showing that you can't underestimate them. But I do think Bulgaria will end up in third place with Gibraltar in fourth, once again, kind of just due to process of elimination. Now, of course, jumping into League B, we get into some of the bigger teams, and as I said, we start off with the tremendously tricky group. We've got Ukraine, we've got Scotland, Republic of Ireland, and we've got Oman. Romania. I mean, what on earth do I do with a game like this? I mean, it is not going to be easy. Obviously, the likes of Scotland and Ukraine still have to fight their playoff for the qualification for the upcoming World Cup, so that could have a huge impact on a group like this. Obviously, they would want to put forward the right squad, they would want to rest the right players at the same time. Once again, it is not going to be easy by any kind of standard, and as much as I think the world wants Ukraine to win this group, I think the world is so behind Ukraine at the moment. Unfortunately, I do think Scotland will end up winning this one, or not unfortunately, that would be a bit unfair to Scotland, but I do think Scotland have a fantastic team. Once again, they've got such a mix of experience and high potential young players in their squad, and I do think that they really do have potential to win it. We've seen them over the last few years. They've had some fantastic players. It's just a matter of playing well as a team. We did see that a few times at the World Cup, but I do expect them to win this group, although I wouldn't be surprised if Ukraine won it whatsoever. And of course, that does mean I will put Ukraine in second place. Once again, they've got fantastic players. I mean, that really seem to shine, especially during international competitions, with the likes of Bushchan. Once again, brilliant goalkeeper. We've got Zinchenko, you've got Yermolenko. All of those players fantastic, and they should help Ukraine once more. Now, of course, in third place, unfortunately, once again, that does mean Northern Ireland, or Republic of Ireland, sorry, should take that third place. Once again, it's not that I think they're bad or anything, it's just compared to the other two, I just don't feel like they're on the same level, to be honest. I think they've got some brilliant young players, and within the next 4-5 years, we could see Republic of Ireland do something really, really special. But as I said, just for now, going to put them in third. Unfortunately, Armenia in fourth place. Henrik Mkhitaryan, I'm sorry, I have to put you there. And as much as I like the likes of Mkhitaryan, a player for example, unfortunately, once again, just compared to the other three, not quite on the same level, although I wouldn't be surprised if they caused a surprise, if I could put it like that. Now, of course, jumping to Group 2, we've got a group that I believe will cause a lot of upsets. Now, of course, Russia obviously have been disqualified for the competition because they've kind of started a war, you know. But between the other three teams, Iceland, Israel, and Albania, I believe this could go in absolutely any direction. Now, of course, the first thing I'm going to say next is going to upset a lot of people, but I think Iceland will end third place in this group. They will end last. Now, yes, although they qualified so easily for the 2018 World Cup, for example, all those years ago, unfortunately, just looking at them at the moment, they've been on a serious decline over the last few years, not producing any of the same results that they have over the last few years. As I said, being heavily unimpressed with them. I mean, even in their World Cup qualification group, ending under the likes of Romania and Armenia, you do expect better from them. And between Israel and Albania, to be honest with you, it could go absolutely any which way. I am going to put Israel in second place. I mean, they even ended above the likes of Austria in their World Cup qualification group. But looking at Albania, I think that they have potential to really surprise. As we know, Broja, the Southampton/Chelsea striker, has had a phenomenal season. I think he could really bring them a lot of success, to be honest with you. And 6 wins in 10 games in the World Cup qualifications. They will cause a few surprises. Now, of course, moving on, Group C, once again, very tricky group, but I do think Finland will end up winning it. Of course, recently qualified for their first ever international competition, which was obviously the 2020 Euros. Obviously, I think they surprised a lot of people. They've got a lot of World Cup players, or world-class players, should I say. And between Bosnia, Romania, and Montenegro, once again, it's one of those situations where it could go in any which order, to be honest with you. Any of these teams could come anywhere within these positions. It is not going to be an easy one. I think in terms of a prediction, though, I am going to put Bosnia in second place. I know a lot of people are going to call it an aging squad, which yes, indeed, it definitely is, with the likes of your Dzeko or your Pjanic or that. But saying that, they do have a few young players coming through the ranks, and even those old players are performing really well. I mean, Dzeko just found a whole new level this season in scoring goals, and I do think Bosnia, once again, could cause surprises and come in second. And of course, between Romania and Montenegro, not going to be an easy one, but I do think Romania will snatch that third place and Montenegro will get fourth. Now, of course, Montenegro, once again, although they had a very, very tricky group to play in, obviously they came fourth place in their World Cup qualifications. Once again, could go any way, and I'm not convinced that there's a fixed order there I should put it in, to be honest. There's no right answer, essentially. Now, of course, jumping into Group 4, we've got Sweden, Norway, Serbia, and Slovenia. Now, I'm saying this, if Serbia don't win their group, there is something so broken with them. I mean, you look at them, they've got the likes of Vlahovic, they've got Mitrovic, Dusan Tadic, Kostic, some world-class players, they've got some world-class defenders, they've got a world-class squad. In general, I mean, they are the reason that Portugal almost didn't qualify for the competition. So, you know, at the end of the day, if Serbia don't win this group, something is seriously wrong with them. So, of course, I am going to put them in first between the two teams, obviously the two Scandinavian teams, Sweden Sweden versus Norway. Which Viking nation will end up taking it? It is not going to be an easy pick, but I do think Sweden have proven a lot more in recent years, and they will qualify over Norway, which once again, I mean, for Norway to have the likes of Erling Haaland, Martin Odegaard, and so many more once again, could go any which way. But once again, we've seen a lot from Sweden in recent years, and they should be able to capitalize. Which once again, although Slovenia have a very, very decent squad, just compared to the other three nations, I don't think they'll end up taking it. Which of course, ladies and gentlemen, means that we will be looking at our League A games. Now, of course, these are the big games, the big dogs of European football. Once again, this is probably where it's going to be very, very tricky. But of course, looking at Group A, we've got France, the current Nations League holders. We've got Denmark, we've got Croatia, and we've got Austria. What an insanely difficult group it is. Now, of course, between these four nations, as I said, I do expect France to win. People are saying that after the previous Euros or after the previous World Cup that they should be going down, obviously with bad World Cup luck, but I don't see it happening. I do see France end up winning this group. Once again, got a fantastic squad, got fantastic depth. Now, of course, in second place, I'm going to put the likes of Denmark. As we know, the world's favorite underdogs, especially since what happened to Christian Eriksen last time around. But saying that, it's not just out of pity that I'm going to put them there. They've got fantastic players, they've got a fantastic squad overall, and they should be able to make it very, very far in most European competitions. Now, of course, looking at the likes of Croatia, that means that I think the previous World Cup runner-ups will come third place in this group, which, I mean, that sounds absolutely mental to say, but I have to say this. Croatia, you've got a bit of an aging squad. I think you've still got a fantastic squad. You could definitely at least get second place in this group. But to be honest with you, as I said, looking at how strong the other two nations are, unfortunately, have to put Croatia in third. Now, of course, unfortunately, that means I'm putting Austria in fourth place, which, I mean, I can't believe I'm saying that, but I think I'd say that no matter who I put in fourth would end up being a hard choice to make. I mean, once again, Austria, we saw at the recent Euros, they had the ability to really surprise a lot of people. I mean, David Alaba, once again, we know how absolutely brilliant the Madrid centre-back can be. I mean, Alaba has been the top of his game for so long. Obviously, we know the likes of Arnautovic really picked up on form in the recent tournament. Obviously, Sabitzer, you could go throughout this entire squad. It is a World Cup squad, and I can't believe I'm putting them in fourth place. But as I said, someone has to take it. Now, of course, looking at Group 2. Once again, I'm going to put this down as maybe this is the most difficult group. Spain, Portugal, Switzerland, Czech Republic. How on earth do I predict a group like this? I mean, how insanely difficult it is. I mean, Spain, we've seen them slip up from time to time, although they made the final of the most recent Nations League. Portugal, once again, almost didn't qualify for the World Cup. Switzerland, as we know, maybe not considered as highly as the others, but they were recent underdogs at the Euros. Czech Republic, as we know, exact same situation. They've got a brilliant team. This is such a tricky one to predict. But you know what? At the end of the day, I do think, to be honest with you, I think Portugal might be able to win this group, to be honest with you. Yes, they almost didn't qualify for the World Cup. But as we know, when Portugal switch on, they are a different animal and they should win it. And as we know, between Portugal and Spain, when they play against each other, I mean, when it goes to a one-on-one, it is so tremendously close. Now, of course, that does mean that I think that Spain will probably end up second in their group. They've got so much brilliant youth, and although Sergio Ramos, I mean, I don't know whether he's going to be picked for the squad for the Nations League, to be honest with you. But at the end of the day, I mean, having the likes of Emerick Laporte now in the squad adds a whole new depth in defense, and I don't think they'll be worried without Ramos anymore. Now, of course, in third and fourth place, it is a very tricky decision. Obviously, with the likes of Patrick Schick back from injury, I mean, Czech Republic could do so well, but unfortunately, I do think Switzerland, after what we saw from them at the recent Euros, I'm going to give them third place. They have a brilliant squad, but it could go either way. Now, of course, jumping into Group 3, this is a group that a lot of people are going to have their eyes on. Italy, Germany, England, Hungary. What a group. And can we just talk about how sad I feel for Hungary, to be honest with you? I mean, they've been given almost a group of death, to be honest, where they have almost no chance. Exactly like they were given in the recent Euros. I mean, in the Euros, who were they given? Like France, Germany, and Portugal? I mean, Hungary just aren't given an easy time, to be honest with you. And unfortunately, under process of elimination, I have to put them last place in this group, although I really like them. And for the other three teams, I mean, Italy haven't qualified for the World Cup. They have a lot to prove. But saying that, they've been in a bit of a dip of form, to be honest with you, since the end of the Euros, to be honest with you. But I mean, saying that, obviously they are playing England very soon, and they could prove me wrong in a game like that. Obviously another chance to win silverware, but obviously in this kind of competition between these three teams, I do think, weirdly enough, that Germany and England will be the two teams fighting out for first. That's right, I think Italy will end up in third place. I think that once again they are going to get one of those Nations League or National League curses after winning a trophy. trophy. And between Germany and England, obviously we know how precise Germany are, but we have seen them slip up in recent times to teams where they really shouldn't have lost points again. Obviously, almost the same goes for England, to be honest with you. And I know I'm going to surprise a lot of people, but I think England will end up taking this group. Obviously, between these two nations, it is always going to be extremely close. One of the biggest rivalries in football. But I think England could take it unless Gareth Southgate messes up too much. I think he's going to use this competition a lot to kind of experiment with his team for the upcoming World Cup. We'll have to see if he experiments too much, I guess, but I don't think so. And of course, that takes us to our final group of the Nations League: Belgium, Netherlands, Poland, and Wales. Now, what a group this is. Now, of course, I think looking at the likes of Poland, lots of people expect him to do well, and to an extent, I also do. I mean, they've got the likes of Cash now, Matty Cash in the right back position, which I think will really improve this team tenfold, to be honest with you. Obviously, Szczesny between the posts, you've got Zielinski, you've got your likes of Robert Lewandowski, and as much as those names are very impressive on paper, it has almost never been impressive on the pitch itself. And I know a lot of people back the names on that team sheet, but unfortunately, due to them not performing well as a team, I don't know if I can put Poland through, and I do think they will end last in their group. I'm sorry. And of course, in third place, to be honest with you, I do think it is going to be Wales. As we know, Wales have been very impressive over the last few tournaments, to be honest, whether it be on the world stage or a European stage. They've really had the ability to impress, and they could easily snatch a second place finish in this table, to be honest with you. But looking at Belgium and Netherlands, I do believe that it is between them that will end up winning this group. Now, of course, Belgium, lots of people are saying, are exiting a golden generation, which, to be fair, they are leaving a golden generation, but they do have a lot of brilliant youngsters that I do believe will be able to take their places. And even though a player like Lukkaku has been absolutely horrible for Chelsea this season, when he puts on that national team jersey, he is a totally different animal. When it comes to defense, although you are losing the likes of your Vertonghen's or your Alderweirelds, you still got them playing for the National League. You still got players like Denayer joining the squad, although your Eden Hazards isn't performing well. You've still got a player like your Thorgan Hazards or your Carrasco's. I still believe there's a lot of top quality in this Belgium team, but you know what? I do think that they will end up getting second place, because looking at Netherlands, once again, I think they are almost the complete package. When it comes to youth, when it comes to experience, they've got it all. I feel like either of these two teams could definitely win it. There is no guaranteed prediction that I can put forward, but as I said, looking at Netherlands, I do believe that they should be able to snatch it. And that, of course, ladies and gentlemen, is it for my Nations League prediction video. As I said, so tremendously difficult to predict. I mean, things could go absolutely either which way. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to put your predictions down in the comment section down below. Do subscribe if you want to catch more of my content in the future. I do have a lot of international football content coming your way very soon. Don't forget to leave a like down below as well. Let's see if this video can reach 20 likes. As I said, this video, it is going to be mental. I can't imagine who's going to win the Nations League. I think we're in for quite a few surprises, but guys, this has been fun. FYNN. Cheers.